I'm not supposed to feel nervous. I'm not allowed to feel nervous. But I don't know what I'm going to say because I've worked with a lot of stars and I'm fairly comfortable working with a lot of stars, but I've never seen stars like these before. And so I don't know what to say. I've come prepared to say a few things, but Siddharth said them so much more dramatically. And just as I'm told all my life, how much cricket have you played, Siddharth can turn around and say, but how much do you know? And my answer to you, Siddharth, is I don't know. But I'll try. I have a very limited knowledge. People like me, we try, but we can never be what a lot of other people experience. But I'm not going to go down that path too much because both George and Siddharth have spoken out against sympathy, and that is the worst thing to have. So, but I'm not George and I'm not Siddharth, so I've got to come prepared. It was interesting that neither George nor Siddharth had any paper or whatever. They just came and spoke. But ordinary people have got to come prepared, so I'm going to try. So, I have a little bit of experience of meeting differently abled people. From very close quarters, I saw my aunt's son, who's got cerebral palsy and who's battling his way through life. And very, very luckily, very fortunately, I was able to be associated in a very small, tiny way with the Forum for Autism in Mumbai. And it allowed me to learn a little bit about things that I did not know. And it came in very handy when I noticed that my cousin's son was not at a position where he should have been. And we were able to detect that very quickly. And that is when I realized the great importance of letting people know that the more awareness we create, however small, at whatever level we are, it could help somebody somewhere see something before rather than later. And so we go on this walk. Anita joins me too. We go on this walk. We don't do too much, but it's a 6-kilometer walk. And the first time I went on the 6-kilometer walk, I said, how are the autistic children going to walk on the 6-kilometer walk? We completed the walk and some of us were sweating and they were still around. They were fine. Then I said, what the hell were you thinking about? They were absolutely fine. They did the walk like everybody else. We'd stop from time to time, not because they needed us to stop, but because we were distributing little leaflets to help people understand a little bit more. Unfortunately, we live in this this terrible celebrity-driven world where anybody whose face appears on a television screen for a while believes that he's important. But it helped on the walk because Sanjeev Kapoor and I, who were doing the walk together, we could talk about it a little bit more. I also learned while we were doing that we are not a very disabled-friendly country. And then I went to England last year and I went to see my niece's son, and I discovered how much more disabled-friendly they are. And I think all of us, this is such a wonderful forum, all of us need to raise our voices, as George said, to realize that we are resources. So thanks, George, for opening our mind to that and making us think very differently. I tried playing cricket. George met me many years ago and said, you must take an interest in cricket for the visually impaired. And last year, there was an inter-college tournament in Mumbai. And I said, I must go because if George calls me again, then I won't be able to speak to him. So I went to this tournament and I saw these children playing in the courtyard of St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. I said, it's incredible how they're putting bat to ball. And so in the break, I said, can I try? I said, I've played a little bit of cricket myself. I played reasonably well. I said, let me try. And so I asked one of them to bowl to me and I shut my eyes. And I said, I will play by the sound, which is how they play. They play by the sound. And as the ball was coming to me, I said, yes. And I played a shot and I'd missed it by a yard. I'd missed it by a whole yard. And I said, okay, right, learning curve. And I played 3 balls. And I missed each one of them by a yard. And that's when I discovered that I only had normal senses. That the people who were playing had a far heightened sense of sound. And as a result, they could meet the ball far, far better than I could. I also learned something else about the kind of cricket they play. As soon as the bowler rolled the ball towards the batsman, someone made a sound to indicate that the ball had been bowled. And the fielder at cover and the fielder at mid-wicket immediately dived and were horizontal to the ground. And for the first couple of times I wondered why. I said, why are they doing that? Until I discovered that they're using every part of their body to stop the ball. And as a result, if they are completely horizontal and prostrate on the ground, then they're giving themselves, with their hands stretched, they're giving themselves about 6.5 feet to stop the ball. And then the other day in Mumbai, I saw one of India's players trying to stop a ball, and I said, no, maybe he just needs to be prostrate 6.5 feet, he'll stop it better. Maybe he'll stop it better. But I learned so many interesting things. I learned about how you can make use of your resources so much better. And it was absolutely fascinating. One of my favorite cricketers was at that time was disabled, and he should never have played cricket, to be honest. He finished his cricket career with more wickets than runs, simply because he didn't have the strength to play shots, and he used to throw the ball left-handed. He used to bowl right-handed and throw the ball left-handed because the left was a stronger hand. And we used to watch B.S. Chandrasekhar play. He was afflicted by polio as a child, and sometimes they said he was quicker than our new ball bowlers of the time. And we copied him, and I said, he could so easily have said, why me? And not played cricket. Instead, he found that he had a greater skill. He could do things with the ball that people with normal wrists could not. And so when Viv Richards retired, he said, the only bowler I was scared of, he said, I played a lot of fast bowlers, but the only bowler I was scared of was B.S. Chandrasekhar. And we used to spend a lot of time imitating his bowling action, and he was a big star for us. And my first revelation, my first awareness that rather than saying why, you could say how. Maybe I can. And then I read the story of one of my greatest heroes, Tiger Patowdy. Can you imagine playing international cricket? At 21, he was breaking batting records around the world. And then life dealt him a hand that a lot of us thought was unfair. And he lost an eye in an accident. I met him many times, and the one thing that struck me about him, apart from the fact that he was very stylish, he was very charming, he was a wonderful human being, was not once did he talk about what might have been. Not once. He never said, you know what, if I'd seen the cricket ball with both eyes, I might have done better. He averaged 35. And in an era of flat pitches where you see people averaging 50 plus routinely and you think, what was 35? I'll tell you a story that he wrote about in his book, about the first proper first-class cricket match that he played after he had a glass eye installed. And he would try to cover his bad eye, therefore, with his cap, so he would only see with one eye. Now just try and imagine people actually watch side on like that. So he's got to watch like this so that he's watching with his right eye, which is the better eye. And he said he saw 2 cricket balls coming at him. Just imagine you're playing a fast bowler and you're seeing 2 cricket balls coming at you. And he said, I played and missed, and I played and missed, and I realized the lower of the 2 balls was actually the correct ball. And so he said, I picked the lower ball, and he made a half century picking the lower ball. That is when you realize what skill really is. Can you imagine what skill that must be? To see 2 balls coming at you and picking the lower of the 2 balls and being good enough to score a half century. And I thought that was another great example to me of someone who never complained, just got on with life and made the best of what you could. And I have no doubt in my mind that Tiger Patowdy would have been regarded today as one of the greatest batsmen to have played the game. He averaged 35, but hang on, he was no less a hero to all of us because of what he could actually go out and achieve. And I'm sure a lot of you have read the story of Oscar Pistorius in recent times. He was not supposed to run, was he? Life didn't tell him to run. Life didn't say, listen, go and become an Olympic athlete. Not just a Paralympic athlete, but a full-fledged Olympic athlete. And with his prosthetic leg, he became so good that people now complain that he's actually getting an advantage using that leg. People are complaining that he should not be allowed to run with normal people. And you'll be delighted to know that while he did race and made the semi-finals of the 400 meters at the Olympics, at the London Olympics, he then went and participated in the Paralympics and did not win a medal. Because there were 3 others better than him. three others who were better than him, all running on prosthetic legs and running and doing everything. I mean, we heard today about how George talked about how a visually impaired man has climbed Everest. I think double amputees climbed Everest too. And then I tell myself, hang on, sometimes we have problems in life, and I tell myself, what an idiot you are. What are you talking about? And then I saw the dancers today. And then I heard Siddharth speak. And then I said, I meet a lot of heroes. I'm very, very privileged to meet a lot of heroes in real life. But there are two people I now want to meet. I want to meet the teacher who taught them to dance. Because it's one thing for them to be able to dance, but can you imagine the greatness of the teacher who's taught them to dance? I want to meet the person who taught him to dance. And I want to meet Siddharth's dad. And I want to meet Siddharth's dad because he told me one of the great truths in life. He said, my biggest investor in life was my dad. And the only return on investment he got was joy and satisfaction. I mean, Tendulkar only faces a cricket ball, no? Face a cricket ball, you get out to a cricket ball, you go back, you face another cricket ball the next day. Maybe if you retire, you don't face another cricket ball in international cricket. But that's all right. You only faced a cricket ball. And sometimes these things hit you. I actually saw, during the IPL, we had, there was an event where there were dancers trained by Shyam Agdawar. Shyam Agdawar has a troupe of differently able dancers. And I saw that, and honestly, I had a little lump in my throat just seeing the expressions on their faces. And Dr. Menon today talked about how when people are performing, they suddenly seem to forget everything. Or when they go out on a holiday, it was brilliant hearing that. When they go out on a holiday, they're different. And he said that when they're performing, they're different. And as it turns out, I was watching faces. They were making the most amazing moves. They were on wheelchairs, some of them. And on wheelchairs, the way they were moving around in formation was unbelievable. But I was looking at the faces, and they were, you couldn't look at the face and say that they'd been dealt different cards. They were just delighted. And so I requested Setmax. I said, you've got all these cheerleaders. And I said, good on them, they're earning a living. And you don't grudge anyone a living. But I said, why don't you try these people to be your cheerleaders in the studio one day? And no, I didn't do anything. I just passed on. I was just a messenger. I get very embarrassed when people think I'm doing too much. I was just a messenger. And then I got a call back. It was one of the days when I was not in the studio. I got a call back from this girl called Aloka, and she just said, thank you for putting them on because we had one of our best days in the studio. And they were cheerleaders. And I'm now going to make a request in front of everybody to Joy Bhattacharya, who's a big shot in Kolkata Knight Riders, saying one day, use them as your cheerleaders at a KKR match at the Eden Gardens. It might be a little unfair to the regular cheerleaders because these will draw more applause. But rather than look at cheerleaders with different eyes, they look at them with adoring eyes. Yeah, that's one of the sadder aspects of the IPL, but we'll go past that. The one thing I've learned from watching sports people, and I don't know if I can tell that to you because you practice that every day. It might seem very stupid. It's like when you're kids, we heard this expression, taking coals to Newcastle. But one of the things I've learned from sports people is, and from the very best sports people, is that they don't understand defeat. They don't accept it. If they're thrown an obstacle in the way, they say, right, this is an obstacle, how am I going to overcome it? And that is how they become great. Every time they find themselves in a situation where they're going to lose, because in cricket matches you lose, it's a small aspect of play, you win and you lose, that's all right. But every time they're in a position where they're going to lose, they say, right, this is the position I'm in, I'm not going to complain about why I'm in this position, because that's all right. But given that I'm in this position, how can I win? And I think that's true of so many of us in life. I'm in a situation, rather than complain about what the situation I'm in, how can I win from here? And I think that is why they become great, because that is how they pull out matches and win matches they're not supposed to win. I don't know if some of you see cricket matches that are won by teams that are not supposed to win, or teams that are in a position from where you don't really expect them to win. But they say, hang on, how can I win from here? What can I do to win from here? I've got these cards. Now what can I do? And I guess it's a battle a lot of you fight every day. But you'll be delighted to know that there are other people who also fight similar battles. Or you might be you might be only down to 10 players or 9 players. Most teams are down to 9 players in a football match. You'll say, oh my God, I'm down to 9 players. The great teams will say, right, I'm down to 9 players. 9 versus 11, that's all right, isn't it? In the Hindi movies, one guy beats 25, so why can't 9 beat 11? We've also found, and I'm sure Firoz and the others who work actively in corporate life can tell you, that several times we get ourselves into situations where we focus too much on what we cannot do. And we look at every possible situation to search for sympathy, to search for an excuse for failing. A lot of us do that. We get into difficult situations and we use those difficult situations as an excuse for failing. So we are already now ready to fail. Because when we fail, we've already got an excuse. Most teams don't win in India because they come armed with excuses. They come ready to complain about the heat, about the dust, about the prawns sometimes, about just about everything, about hotels. Our hotels are better than theirs, but they still complain. But they come armed with every possible reason to lose, and that is why they lose. They don't lose because they can't face the bowling. They don't lose because the pitch is turning too much. They lose because they come ready to lose to be able to use their excuses. They come with all the articles written already in the media. And if they don't find situations to suit the article, they say, what the hell, I'll write the article anyway. And then you see a team that comes and says, so what if it turns? We've got guys who can turn the ball too, and then they make the home team lose. Because the home team is focusing only on one way of winning. Because they want all the aces to themselves. And in life, nobody gives you all the aces, right? But if you say, I want only a certain kind of situation and I want all the aces delivered to me and all these cruel visitors, we'll give them all the bad cards and we'll keep all the good cards to ourselves, you learn sometimes that people can win with what you think are bad cards. Which is why you just take the situation, both teams play to the situation and the better team wins. That's how the sport was originally meant to be played. And I think that's how a lot of life is meant to be led. So these are a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about. I don't know if I've made any sense because I'm actually sweating on the inside. I'm a bit nervous because I've never felt so small, honestly. I've never felt so small. I walk in a television studio sometimes and I feel good about being myself. And I think, I've done things in life, And then suddenly some days you feel small, and I'm sure I haven't said half the things because I can't trace them. I can't trace them on the sheet of paper that I've written. But thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for opening our eyes to another world. And I hope I've been coming across a few media people here. Listen, there's better things than most things you write anyway. Most days you write about bad news. Because in the media, bad news sells. Bad news is good news. It's one of the truths of the media, that bad news is good news, and bad news sells, and bad news is good for the bottom line. So every day at 9 o'clock, we switch on our television sets to feel bad. We also switch on our television sets to learn bad manners. Because no one lets the other person finish a sentence. And if by chance you pause to breathe, you have to remember to have finished the sentence because that's all you'll get. But one day, spare us all the bad news. Tell us the good news. Yeah. Tell us what people are doing in life. They're doing far better stuff than fighting over one little seat and trying to make money and having two brothers shot or all that nonsense that you read in the papers. There's people doing far more beautiful things. So, no. I didn't say it for that reason. I just thought I'll speak to them. So write about some good things today. And I think we in the media have a far bigger job. We don't create the messages. The people who create the messages are always the most important people. But somewhere down the line, the people who carry the messages become more important. I think we need to change that too. We only carry messages. We are postmen. We don't know anything more. So let's all carry that message. Can I see everyone? All of us in the media, let's raise our hands today. Let's raise our hands. Come on, don't put it down. There you go. Come on, raise your hands. And the gentleman from the Deccan Herald who's sitting there who I'm going to speak to, let's all raise our hands and let's tell some happy stories today. Thank you very much for giving me the most moving morning I've had for years. George, thank you very much, Siddharth, and all the dancers and Dr. Menon. Thank you very much. I'm going to go by a different person today. Thank you.